Welcome back to From the Burbs to the Tetons. So this is going to be our wrap-up video for the Culvert project. We're going to kind of like do a little bit of a retrospective on the project, talk about things that went right, things that went wrong. I'd also like to take a second to go ahead and thank all of my subscribers. I really appreciate you guys hanging with me early in the channel. And I really enjoy the conversations we have in the comments, so if you have something to say, you know, please comment down below. So let's get started. So probably one of the first things that I'm starting to learn more about is there's big construction, you know, equipment, big areas, that kind of stuff, and then small construction, like putting up the antenna. You really got to take a whole different way of setting up your cameras and stuff like that. I hope on my next small project where it's just me and doing something in the camera, I get it set up a little bit better. I haven't put the video together yet for the driveway, but I'm hoping that's better than what I did for the culvert. It's a learning process. So thanks for being patient. These videos should get better as I get more experience doing this. I'd also like some feedback on how much video you guys want to see on just kind of repetitive things. For instance, you know, haven't taken the video yet of this, but eventually I'm going to have to dig a trench from the corner of my property all the way out to the driveway to put in the fiber. And so do you guys want to see that whole thing? Yes, I'll speed it up. I won't play it at normal speed. Or would you prefer to see, you know, the first 10 feet of the ditch, some of the middle of the ditch, and the last 10 feet of the ditch, and kind of compact it down? I don't know what you guys might like to see, so I'd like some feedback on that. I felt sometimes on the culvert I was showing a lot of video that was just kind of like, nothing really going on. But I didn't know whether or not to cut it, that kind of stuff. But like I said, give me some feedback. Help me out here, guys. So lessons learned. So the first one is square your retaining wall to the culvert. Now I didn't do this. What I did is I squared it to the road / my property. And what happened is the canal there is not at a 100% right angle to the property. So once we finally set the culvert into the ditch, I had already laid a row of blocks on either side as the footer, and they were perfectly parallel to the property line. Well, I shouldn't say perfect, but they were pretty close. They were less than 1 degree off, I'm pretty sure. It took a long time laying it out. Also, when I laid out the driveway, I could tell by the lineup of the driveway of constantly measuring the driveway to the property line that, you know, I did a pretty good job lining up those retaining walls. But if you look at it really close, they're a little bit crooked. Now, are most people going to notice that? No. They're off by about 4 or 5 degrees, I think. Maybe that much, maybe 3 or 4. But they're already in. There's not much I can do about it. I'll have to go ahead and just kind of make do when I put the final rock sheathing onto the retaining walls. So one of the frustrating things at first was trying to get the contractor to listen to me about when we were putting in the fill. I knew there were big stones in the fill. I did not want those big stones next to the retaining wall, but you know, he kind of pushed the envelope a bit on what he felt like he could do with the backhoe. And by the way, he was superbly good with it, but he tapped down a rock that was probably 12 by 12 inches. I mean, it was a big rock. It was about this big. And when he tapped it down with all the pressure and everything, it ended up making the wall move just a little bit, halfway up. It moved maybe 1/4 of an inch. So it wasn't a lot. As a matter of fact, I could cover it up, so I wasn't really upset. But I think finally he got the clue. It's like, stop doing that, because what I asked him to do was put a lot of fill right there next to the retaining wall, like within 6 to 12 inches of the retaining wall. And then what I would do is I would manually, I had a kind of a hoe slash digger tool. I don't have it with me. I left it in the car in Salt Lake City. But I was using that to pull all the aggregate into, up against the wall. And what I was able to do at that point is anything that was more than about the size of my fist, or yeah, that was probably about what I was looking at. Anything the size of my fist or bigger, I was taking it and I was tossing it. I needed the bigger rocks anyways for the small culvert. I did not do a retaining wall, or a proper retaining wall, but I wanted to use those big stones around that retaining wall. I mean, kind of as a pseudo retaining wall around the little culvert. So I've got to be more forceful, stick to my guns, explain to the guy what I really want done, and harp on them a little bit, if I need to do what I asked. When it came time to do the driveway where we filled in more aggregate, he did listen to me. He did exactly what I had asked, and I think he figured out this is working really well. He's going through and taking out all the stones and everything that could damage the retaining wall by hand and just raking it in. Then I come back and just put a little bit more in, and we just kind of built it up. The other thing is when I kind of timed this, I timed it for me being there heads down working on the retaining wall the whole time. Big mistake. I'm also the general contractor on this project. I need to make sure I've set aside time for my general contract stuff. I originally had set aside 5 days. I think I was going up Monday, leaving Friday. Luckily or unluckily, depending on how you want to look at it, your point of view, we had a hurricane come through the area. It did not hit Virginia, but it did hit South Carolina, North Carolina. I don't think it was that bad of a hurricane, but still it was enough to disrupt a lot of flights and everything. So Southwest was giving people the chance to rebook their flights for free. So I changed my flight, gave myself the whole weekend to work on the wall, and I was short 3 or 4 bags of concrete. I couldn't go pick them up because on Sundays a lot of things are closed in the valley, unfortunately. And to tell you the truth, I was so tired by then. My arms felt like they were going to fall off about the 4th or 5th day from picking up 80-pound bags of cement. I mean, those concrete bags, to me, picking up 80 pounds isn't the problem. There's no handles on it. It's an awkward size. You're trying to hold it with one arm while you rip it open and pour it into the cement mixer. So all of that going together just knocked me on my butt. I did hire a couple of days some young guys, helpers and stuff, and it was funny. One of the guys I hired, he says, yeah, I don't feel bad, because I was saying, yeah, I'm getting old, I'm overweight, I'm out of shape. He said, yeah, but I'm 28 or whatever he was, and I'm having a real hard time with these bags of cement, so don't feel bad. So that's one of the things I've got to do, is realize I've got to set aside time for the management bit and the camera work. The cameras take time to set up. I probably need to start thinking about how I want to film things the night before instead of once I get there and start screwing around. That way I don't waste as much time with the camera stuff. The other thing is I was new with all this camera equipment, and I hate just taking camera equipment and screwing around with it. I'd rather use it for real and learn that way. I should have screwed around a little bit more with it beforehand, but now I feel really, really good with it. The GoPro, I had all sorts of problems with it. The batteries wouldn't stay charged. I've heard other people say the same thing. So I would charge the batteries one night, not even use any of the batteries, and within 2 days, without using them, they would be drained completely. And I don't know why they were draining. I didn't have them hooked up to anything. And that's one of the days that I didn't get any video. It was because I tried to get the GoPro working, screwed with it for 5 minutes or so, and said, screw it, I got too much work to do. So I just didn't record much that day. I took a couple of pictures. I should have taken some more pictures. The other thing is that GoPro has a voice activation system, which I currently still have on, but the next time I'm out on the property, it just picks up noises and thinks you're telling it, GoPro, stop recording. Matter of fact, one time I said, GoPro, start recording. It was already recording, and it stopped recording. So the voice activation, it sounds cool and everything, it just doesn't work as well and reliable as it should. And it seems to drain the batteries a lot too, because I would have a battery that I put in, do 5 or 10 minutes worth of recording, look at the battery, it would say it'd be 80% done. I would just charge the other 2 batteries overnight, and then the next morning that battery would be dead. The GoPro also has problems with memory cards. I heard another channel say they put memory cards in and out, in and out, in and out, trying to get them to work until they eventually get recognized. I've got one that I bought that was the identical one they had on their website. It worked fine. And then I decided 4 or 5 months later to buy another one because I was going to go for the driveway, and there was a newer version of the one that I bought. I bought the newer version. The GoPro won't recognize it. My computer recognizes it. This camera recognizes it. My other camera recognizes it, but the GoPro won't. The one thing GoPro has going for it is its electronic stabilization. It is very, very good. But I'm gonna probably try one of the Sony cams next time to see how that works and see if its stabilization is good enough. So a couple other kind of miscellaneous things. I ran out of concrete. I don't know why I was trying to get it exactly right, especially since they come pick it up. Valley Lumber, the lumber yard I was using, they come pick up stuff at the end for free. And I was short about 3 or 4 bags. I'm gonna have to knock off a couple of end caps and then, fill the wall up the rest of the way. I think I've got two of the holes that are about 2 feet short on concrete. I also need some concrete for my corner post on my property. Now, in several videos and also pictures, there's a beautiful yellow bush on the corner of the lot. And I think when I submitted my pictures for the Grand Teton Canal Company, I think they saw that and thought, oh, that's in the canal and gonna obstruct the flow of water, and somebody came out and ripped it out. They should have cut it out because they disturbed the corner post, not enough that it actually moved out of the hole, so I kind of straightened it back up. And then I bought these green corrugated looking posts that you would use for fencing, for like around a garden or something like that. I just got the 4-foot high ones because I wasn't going to use it for fencing. I'm using it for corner posts. So I pounded one in, buried it about 2 feet deep. Hopefully that won't move. I put some rocks around it, but I'd love to pour some cement in there too to protect it, because it's gonna get hit by the water flowing through the canal. So I needed some concrete to do that, and I couldn't do it. It was Sunday night. The valley was closed. Well, a lot of things are closed Sunday in the valley in general. But the lumberyard was definitely closed on Sunday. And then, my arms felt like they were about to fall off by that time, even with a helper. So I'll go ahead and fix that this year. I'll knock the caps off. I'll also make sure the corner post is secured very well so it won't move. So finally, let's go ahead and talk about the expenses. How much did this really cost me? Now, originally, way back when, probably a couple of years ago, when I was starting to think about this and how much was it going to cost, I figured it was going to cost me about $5,000 to $6,000 to install this on my own, completely on my own. Finally realized that the culvert was way past my skill level with never using a backhoe or any of that kind of stuff, and that I was going to need some help. Also, I was amazed at how inexpensive it was to hire somebody to do work in the valley related to excavation. So I just thought, no brainer, let's do this. Another thing that kind of threw me off or increased the expenses was the size culvert I originally had thought I could use was too small, so I had to buy a bigger one. And then at the same time, Trump decided to start his economic war with the world, and steel prices went up by 25% to 33%. So when I thought I was going to spend about $1,800 on the culvert delivered, ended up spending closer to $3,000. And then the county, for some reason, decided I was going to be the first person on that road that had to put in a culvert in the swale. That's the second small 18-inch round one, and that added another unexpected $700, $800 to it. So let's go over the full pricing here. The culvert, the large culverts were $3,000. The small culverts were about $500. So one of the things that I didn't think about, because I found out about the culverts at the last second, was that you want your driveway winged. You don't want it to hit, in a T with sharp angles. And what I really should have done was do at least 4 culverts of the small one. They're 8 feet long. The big ones are 8 feet long too, so it's 24 feet wide there. And we really couldn't do the wings, and Clint from the excavation company doesn't think it's nearly wide enough for construction equipment, bigger construction equipment, to turn on. And I have to agree with him, and I don't feel comfortable with it anyways. One of the few things my wife said, she wants to make sure that, in the snow and all that kind of stuff, she doesn't feel like, oh, I'm about to fall off the driveway into the ditch. So I definitely want it wider. We talked last year about buying one more and cutting it in half and then adding on each side. He said that would be much better than trying to move everything. They're just not that expensive, especially if he's willing to pick them up, which he probably will do for me because it's the beginning of the season, or at least charge me a lot less than the culvert company will for delivery. So I'm leaning toward buying 2, and that'll make it extra wide. We'll really be able to wing it out nice, and I'll be able to take some time to build up the rocks around the end so it doesn't look like they're falling all over the edge and gonna block the culvert. The delivery fee is $500 from Idaho Falls to Driggs, but they also try and lump them together, so people will actually wait and save things that they don't need right away for another delivery into the county. And I was lucky both times I was able to split it. So it was $250 for the big culvert and then $250 for the small culvert. The excavation, the labor, they split it out by labor and also which equipment they were using by the hour. That totaled the 2 of those together to about $3,600. And then the pit and run that we put over, to attach it to the county road and then get over top of the culverts so I could drive onto my property, that was $1,200. The permit from the county to attach a private road to the public road was $30. The retaining wall, I had to rent some equipment, cement mixer, rebarb. I didn't, the rebarb cutter. I did not rent a generator from them. I went ahead and bought it. I think the generator was $350, $400 for the week, and I bought one for $500. That little Yamaha did a good job. I could not use the economic mode where it would, power itself down to a reasonable level, and then it would monitor how much was drawing. Matter of fact, it would shut off every once in a while because that first initial kick in of getting the mixer to turn would sometimes overpower it. So we were actually helping it turn at the beginning. So you'd switch it on and then just kind of roll it a little bit to take a little of the stress off the generator. So that was $177. The materials, which was the cement, the I can't remember what it's called, the stuff you use to put the concrete blocks together. And the concrete blocks, that was about $1,400. Paid about $150 in day laborers to help me out there at the end the last 2 or 3 days. And then miscellaneous stuff where my gloves ripped. I had to go buy a set of gloves and things like that. That was about $63. So it totaled up to a little over $10,500. I'm really happy with the pricing on it, and, you know, what it turned out to be, considering that the culverts were more expensive, and I had to get two sets of culverts. And then I also hired the excavation company to do all that work. There is no way I would have done that in a week. I easily saved money by using the excavation company. And here's a couple of reasons why. Remember, I'm in Fairfax still, Fairfax, Virginia. I am not moved out there. It's not like I'm drive over to the job site and stuff. I think I mentioned that once. It's like I couldn't twist an ankle on something because I have a flight that I'm catching to come back to Fairfax. Eventually we want to move out there, sooner than later would be nice, but it just depends on how life works out for my wife and I on certain things. And then the other thing is that, so I was renting, a house to live in there. An Airbnb type of situation. I had to fly out there. I didn't count those costs. Also, some of the tools I needed, I didn't have locally out there, so I had to buy some tools. I didn't count that either. I don't think, if this is somebody who's trying to look at how expensive is it to build the culvert, those aren't normal expenses. Those are expenses I incurred because I'm in Fairfax and the property is in Idaho. And then another consideration too on thinking about, you spent $10,500 on this, is that the Grand Teton Canal Company has been pushing really hard for people to put in bridges now. And the easiest way to put a bridge in at the moment would be to buy a 4 by 6 foot square culvert, which is what somebody who recently purchased land there did earlier, about 8 months in front of me down the way. So they put that in. There is no sidewalls or retaining wall there. It's just the culvert put in. It's still kind of high, I think. So you kind of go up on a hill and over and then down on a hill. At least as severe as mine. And I'm still going to put 2 or 3 inches of crush and run on top of mine. May even build it up a little bit more, an inch or two of the heavy fill. What they call pit run out there. Mine's going to come up, so it's going to flatten it out, so the trucks that have trailers, it's not like they'll go over and then they'll T-bone on top and get stuck. It'll be flat enough for them to get over top of it. And the bridge is, cement on top, so if it gets all iced up and everything, you just kind of slide off. There's no railings on what that was put there. Now, my neighbor, who I kind of ran into out there, was kind of like sweating bullets because he talked to the person who had that put in, that landowner, and they spent $24,000 on that. They spent $24,000 on something that I think looks very average, still needs a lot of work done to it, and I think I've put something in that's pretty nice looking for $10,500. And the ultimate comment I got is somebody was driving by and asked me if there was a subdivision going in there, which made me feel really good because it's, I did the retaining wall and the drive-in and all of that kind of stuff nice enough that somebody thought that maybe a subdivision was getting put in instead of just a single-family home. So that kind of wraps this project up. The next one is the driveway. After that, we'll probably do one on, getting all the ditches dug for the utilities and getting those in the ground and everything. We still have the foundation for the house to do as part of the series of developing the site plan and construction. If you have any questions or comments, please put them down below. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe, and the bell button will notify you when we put up a new video.